Week 3, the wisdom of budgeting. This is the one where everybody thought we would be starting. No, we have to address those first 2 weeks first before we think about what am I going to do with the money that I have, because we have to understand it's not ours, that we are stewards of what God has given us, and that we have to have the right heart motivation. Right heart motivation for how we spend, use, save, whatever, with all of our resources that God has provided. So we move now from the heart issues into a very practical issue of planning. If God owns everything, and He does, and we are stewards, and you is, then stewardship requires intentionality. A faithful steward does not drift. He plans. If we are stewards of what God has given us, then we are responsible, like we talked about that first week, for everything that comes through us. He's given it to us for a purpose, and we are to use it for His purpose. And so we need to make sure that what we have been given is intentionally being used by planning what we spend, save, etc. So that brings us to the practical application of budgeting. When you hear the word budget, what do you immediately think? Huh? Rental cars. Oh, budget rental cars. All right. Besides that, when you hear budget, what do you think? Money? What? Restrictions? Plan? What does the IRS workers think? Headache. Good. Go back to bed. What else? Hear budget. Busted. There you go. Yeah. Most of the time when we hear that word, we're thinking restriction. We're thinking pressure. We're thinking guilt, because I haven't done a good job of that. But a budget at base is just a plan. I told you guys the first week that I'm going to be giving you, wisdom that is applied from the Scriptures, and then there's a difference between what the Scriptures actually say and that wisdom applied, right? So a budget, as we would think of it today, and we're going to talk about today, is not in the Bible. Okay? It doesn't say, get out your chart, write down all the numbers and names and all these things. But it is a way for us to apply this biblical principle of planning and stewardship, of taking what God has given and using it in an intentional way. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. How many of you, maybe not now, but at some point in your life, that was how you budgeted? You just looked at your bank account statement or number and said, well, is there any in there or not? And then you just wrote the next check, or you paid the next bill, or you went to the store based on what number was right there. Yeah.
And thinking ahead, okay, what's maybe coming out?
Yeah, maybe thinking about something else, but you haven't written anything down, you haven't really planned it out, you kind of just, you're drifting.
Sound like the U.S. government.
Yeah, just like the government. Luke chapter 14. Luke chapter 14. In the section on the cost of discipleship, Jesus uses an example, an illustration for us in thinking about what the cost is to follow Jesus. He uses another illustration that we can use as a principle in particular for how we steward things. But in the context, he's using that illustration to show us that our whole life and how we follow Christ in every area should be more intentional as well. But since we're just looking at that one aspect of our life, it still applies in this one aspect of our life concerning our finances as well. In verse 28, well, let me just start in 25, just so you hear what I'm saying, where the content text is, but why I'm using it in this way. Now great crowds accompanied him, and he turned and said to them, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple." So first of all, generally speaking, that even applies to what we've been talking about over these last 2 weeks. We've got to deny ourselves. We are stewards. We are followers. We're called to be servants of God and do what He says to do. So in the context of finances, we need to be using ours the way He says to. But here he goes. "So whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you," now he's just trying to use common everyday wisdom to illustration to make his point here. "For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it?" Exactly. "Otherwise, when he's laid a foundation and has not been able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, 'This man began to build and was not able to finish.'" Sit down, count the cost, whether or not you have enough to complete it. The whole idea here is this common illustration that they would have understood. We even get that today. We get what he's saying. You start, going out there, birdsong builder, and you just like, you know what? Hey, we'll think about the cost later down the road for the rest of it. Let's just start let's just start digging. Let's just get going. And then you realize, whoa, I don't have enough money to get the walls up. I got the walls up. I don't have enough to get the roof on. That's not good. And then what happens? Everybody will mock you, saying, "This guy's an idiot. He can't even finish a house. He didn't think about it before he did it. He didn't count the cost. He didn't take the time." Jesus assumes here that wise people plan before they begin. Counting the cost, then, is not unbelief. See, some people think, well, if I sit down and think about it, that means I'm unspiritual, that I don't have faith. Jesus, right here, says you better count the cost. You need to understand. You need to have a plan. You need to realize what it's going to take to get to the end of this. Again, in the context, it's in the Christian life. Listen, when you come to Jesus, He's not saying, "Hey, I gave you a ticket, you're good. Meet me at the pearly gates when at the end of your life." Count the cost. It's going to cost you something. This is going to take work. This is going to take time and effort. You're going to have to change what you think, change how you live, change how you feel, all these things. Your whole life now belongs to me. You better consider the cost before you say, "I want to follow you." So how much more, or how much is that important? But if that's important to do at that level, well, then it's important at this financial level. You need to be considering the cost. You need to be planning ahead. If you do not plan your spending, if you don't plan what you spend, what you've been given, then what's going to happen? The impulse, emotions, and your habits are going to plan your spending for you. That's why you get to the end of the month and you go, Where did it all go? Your impulses, your emotions, and your bad habits. Spend it all. Proverbs 21. Oh, I just pulled that right out. Proverbs 21. And by the way, I know I said this, but it bears repeating often. I am sharing these things and stating these things as a fellow fool, having made many of these mistakes myself a lot earlier and still fall into some of these even now. Proverbs 21, verse 5. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Let me read that again. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Now, be careful. This doesn't mean that if you have faith, you're going to get rich, or that even if you plan that you're automatically going to be, rich and have an abundance of wealth. Okay? But this general principle here is clear. Without plans, you're not going to have abundance. If you just go drift through, you're hasty, you're based on impulse and habit and all these other things, you're going to come to poverty. You're not going to have anything. And you don't, and there's no like, well, I've planned, but I've only come to poverty. That's not going to happen. You're going to be able to survive. You may not ever be, again, a multimillionaire, but you're not going to come to ruin. But everybody who's hasty, if you're hasty, you're not going to have abundance. Making stupid choices gives you stupid results. You get bad consequences from bad choices. That's basically what this is saying. This isn't promising riches and wealth, but it's saying, you want the way to abundance. You want the way to make sure you're stewarding well. It's got to be planned. It's got to be. Planning and diligence go together. Haste and carelessness go together. So a budget, rather than being unspiritual and not of faith, a budget is not a worldly idea. It's a practical application, expression of biblical diligence. If we want to be diligent, then we should be budgeting. Why do people resist budgeting? Huh? Accountability? Discipline? Laziness? They know they're not going to do it right? They want, Restraint, yep. Some may not know how. And so it's maybe an overwhelming task for them. And that's a fair one. I mean, there's lots of reasons why. But some people don't budget because they don't want to know the truth. They don't want to know how bad it is. They don't want to change. You don't want to be restricted. And some people even think that budgeting is only for those who are in a bad place. Oh, you've messed up your money, so you need to get on a budget to get out of that bad place. No, you should. If you were on a budget in the first place, you probably wouldn't have been in that bad place. Everybody needs a plan. A budget helps, yes, with struggling families to get out of the chaos that they've put themselves in, surely. But a budget also helps the stable family stay stable. A budget helps the generous family like Patrick wants to be able to give intentionally. You can't give if you don't have anything left. A budget helps also then to prepare for the future. You're going to have a hard time saving for retirement, preparing for retirement to make sure you can, that you can slow down by the end of your life if you have not planned for that.
What about the widow? She gave all that she had because she trusted the Lord. And that was, I'm sure, not on her budget. Sometimes we just have to give knowing that the Lord told us to do it.
Yeah.
That's the most mistaught.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Because people want to say that, well, I'm giving because just like the widows might, but you are $100,000 in credit card debt. Don't tell me you're being super spiritual because you gave all you had left. No, you have been terrible with your money.
But what I'm saying is people won't give because they don't have enough.
Right. But the problem is in America for sure, most of the time it's not because they don't have enough, it's because they haven't budgeted right.
Right. But I think sometimes we have to listen to the Lord, not to a budget.
And that's what I'm telling you. The Lord is telling you, you need to be doing this intentionally. If you're not, then you're not being a good steward. Well, I'm being sacrificial in my giving. You're not being a good steward. You haven't used the other 99% of what He's given you the right way. But I feel really good about those 2 mites that I gave. That's a wrong attitude. Yes, we should give sacrificially. Yes, we should give out of whatever we have, whether that's richness or poverty. I'm not saying you have to have a lot. But she didn't give all that she had. She gave in a sense that she didn't have.
What she had at the time.
Yeah, that's what she had there. That didn't mean she was foolish with her money.
Right. I'm not saying
Right.
that. But it's making it sound like that maybe we shouldn't tithe because we don't have that,
No, we have not even gotten to that part yet. A budget helps you to give, to be more generous, because you hey, I can give the rest of what I had in my bank account right now because everything else is paid for. I have used this the right way. So I have $435 left in my account this month. Let's give it to this church, or let's give it to this missionary, or let's do this, or there's a friend or a family member that is really struggling this month. I'm just going to put some money in an envelope and put it in their mailbox. But you can't do that if by the end of the month you're like, where'd all my money go? So a budget is not the restriction. A budget is actually freeing. Structure brings freedom. I think I've used this before, and all the guys in track 1 who read the Godliness Through Discipline book know this illustration. When is a train most free? When it's out in the field running free in the field? No. When it's on its tracks. When is a pianist most free to create beautiful music? When they're just banging on the piano? No, when they know the structure of how rhythm and tone and notation all works, and they are able to then craft something beautiful. We got to get that out of our mindset that budget is a restriction. It brings freedom. It allows us to be able to use what God gave us freely. So budgeting then, again, is a stewardship. It belongs to God. Every dollar we have should have a purpose. So that means your budget should reflect biblical priorities. Your giving should be planned. Your needs should be planned. Saving should be planned. You're getting out of debt. Your debt reduction should be planned. Even your recreation. Yes, I didn't say you couldn't ever have fun. But it should be planned. Without a plan, money tends to leak away. It just kind of falls away and it goes away through carelessness. All right, so here's a simple budget approach. And I did this very simply. There are many kinds of budgeting apps or forms or different ways that you can do this. What I've given you is, what I'm giving you is just a very simple budget. But again, it starts with intentionality. A simple way to think about budgeting is to list your monthly income and then assign every dollar a job. I know some people's income is fluctuating. I get that. I mean, you do your best to get an average or guess, based on season of the year. You understand your income better than I do. But then you assign every dollar a job. You dollar are going into the giving. You dollar are going into housing, utilities, food, transportation, insurance, debt payments, savings, household needs, personal spending, miscellaneous, whatever. There's some people have different kinds of things that they have to take care of. So I'm not even giving you all of the different categories that might be included in your particular family budget. The point is not to get so complex where you have 100 things in your budget necessarily, but the point is to make sure it's all there so that you can have clarity about what is expected, what is needed, and then potentially even be able to get rid of some things that, man, I don't need that. Or begin to start planning to get out of debt, or save for big expenses, or save for retirement or college, or whatever it is that you have in your future.
Kind of the commercial where it says, how many, accounts you have, or
Right, that Rocket Money app.
Yeah, and it's like you have 4 Netflix accounts.
And some people have no idea. Nowadays, since everything's on the phone and you can just click and set up a monthly payment on something, people have stuff they don't even recognize. But it just goes out of their account and they don't even know it. If you're budgeting, if you're paying attention, if you're doing it intentionally, then when you get to the end of the month and you're like, wait a minute, my math ain't mathing, well, you can find out real fast, where's the leak? What's happening? For some people, having a card in their wallet is a danger. I'll just swipe. I think Dave Ramsey said that the research shows that you are more likely, in your spending, if you're going to go spend something, you're likely to spend 40% more by using a card than you are cash. Because you don't feel the card. You just swipe it. Or online nowadays, Amazon, DoorDash, all that stuff, just push the button. You don't feel it. And so some people need to go not just budget, but need to get on like a cash-based system, or a majority of their your spending accounts, like groceries or gas or things like that you have actually an envelope with cash in it that you have funded that says these dollars are for this. And once you run out of those dollars, you stop spending till the next time you fill it up. Proverbs 27, 23 and 24 says, "Know well the condition of your flocks, and give attention to your herds, for riches do not last forever, and does a crown endure to all generations." I know you're like, well, I don't have flocks or herds, so this doesn't apply to me. Yeah, know the condition of your income. of your livelihood, of your wealth, of what you are given. The flocks and herds were their income. That was their source of wealth and livelihood. And so for us, it's our jobs, it's our salaries, it's our paychecks nowadays. Know the condition of your finances. Know what's coming in. Know what's going out. Know what you owe and who you owe it to. Know what you're saving. And then in knowing all these things, you can find out and know where you're vulnerable. You can better see the areas where money tends to leak out. Ignorance is not spiritual. I'm just living by faith. No, you're not. Because if you're living by faith, faith is believing what God says and obeying it. And faith in what God's Word says here is, no, I've given you a stewardship. You need to know what you have and what you spend, where it's going. So ignorance isn't a spiritual gift. It's not a fruit of the Spirit. It's dangerous. So here's some practical counsel here. When couples budget, you must do it together. Well, I'm the man, I'm supposed to do all that. No. You may have responsibility, and in your home, you may be the one that does it and actually carries it out. But it should not be done on your own. With your own decisions, with nothing else in mind. Let me give you just a very quick, practical way this works itself out. You might be I'm the financial manager in the home, men. But your wife is the one that buys the groceries. And you go, you should be able to buy groceries this month with $300. That's what you have. Don't go over that. Yeah, you're going to be eating rice and beans and that's it. Maybe. You've got to have that input, right? That you're a one flesh union. You're a team. You're together. You need to be together in this, in your finances. Money fights, like I've been saying all along here, and this is why one of the main reasons for this summer's series. My heart for our married couples that I don't want to see finances be a reason why you have chaos in the home. Money fights often happen because assumptions are never brought into the light. I assume you should be able to use $300 a month on groceries, and then you ended up spending $300 on the one trip this week on groceries. Now we're in a fight. Well, that's because your assumption was based on faulty information because you were trying to do it the way you wanted to do it without any kind of input. Your assumption needed to be brought to the light. Because you're walking around in darkness, dude. You're blind. Now, that doesn't mean just spend however much you want on groceries and then just make the budget that. You should be wise in what you do. You need to be. You should be. Careful. On not overspending because you just. For gluttonous reasons. Let's just call it out. Elephant in the room. Or because you like particular, I only like brand names. Don't give me any of that generic stuff. Whatever it is. And it has to fit within your budget. Like you can't just say, well, my budget is whatever we spend. No, it doesn't work. Because you only have a certain amount of income. You only have a certain amount of money that you are able to use. So couples, work together. Sit down. I know I'm not talking to everybody in this room. Sit down together. Be honest with each other. If the way that you've been doing your finances in your house has been terrible, hey, don't blame one another. Let's just get real honest with each other and say, hey, there's a problem. clearly, let's fix it. Okay? Don't need to hide anything. Don't need to try to manipulate the other person. Plan together in the fear of the Lord. That both of you are stewards of what God has given the both of you. So plan together before the Lord. So here's this week's assignment.
And those that are single, it's the same. Plan with the Lord.
Yep, so here's this week's assignment. Build a simple monthly budget. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's what's on the back. I just gave you a example kind of budgeting form. If you find something online you prefer better, or you are one of those that likes the technology of, there's budgeting apps and things like that, whatever it is you want to use, this is just an example of what you could use. If you like getting on Excel and you like using all the little bubbles and little spreadsheets, that's my wife.
Sarah can help you.
That's my wife for sure. So couples do this together. Individuals, obviously, you do this for your home, for your household, but your household may just be you right now, right? Or you're a kid and you're learning these things within your household, right? Individually. Build a simple monthly budget. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, you're going to not do this first month right. Let me just tell you that right now. Because if you've been doing it wrong for the last 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 30 years, however long you've been married, or however long you've been on your own, you're not going to get it right your first month trying it. Ain't going to happen, okay? But you're starting, okay? I don't know how many months it took us to really start getting, because we were figuring out, wait, how much are we actually spending? What do we need to spend? How can we, where's the good, all right, this is a good spot to stick in with the, groceries or, gasoline and that kind of stuff. What are we actually spending? What's really needed? Book purchases were on there. They were put on there. And then they were taken off eventually, but you have to start with reality, okay? Don't fantasize, okay? Just sit down, reality, where are we at, what do we owe, all these kind of things. Actually write down your actual income for if you are a salaried or hourly and you get a regular income, use real numbers,
Well, if
these actual categories.
Your salary doesn't change. Do you put in like the gross and then the actual do the net, or do you just?
Well, again, it depends on which form you use.
Well, this one you have expected amount and actual amount,
I mean, if it doesn't change, then it would just be.
Yeah.
the one number.
just the net,
Yeah, that's more.
Yeah, whatever you have in your hand
whatever you
to put, yeah, to spend.
Sometimes you have like a line.
And some people, hold on just a second. Some people are like 1099 contract employees. So you need to save your taxes. So that's another expense that's a budget line that you have to keep. Some people, if they have a salary or hourly and their company is paying their taxes for them, they don't have to worry about that. You can just use the net. So it depends. That's what I'm saying. So use that. Begin to work these things out. Build a first draft monthly budget using actual numbers, not guesses. Assign every dollar a job. Now some people, hopefully, I hope this is the case, hopefully you start assigning the dollars a job and you actually have some money at the end of it after you've thought through everything you needed to spend. All right, whatever that money is, you need to assign it to something, or it'll just disappear. So if you are in debt and you need to pay off some credit cards, you have other vehicles or other expenses that you're in debt for, but that's probably a good starting snowball to start paying off debt, which is another lesson later on. But every dollar needs to be put somewhere. It needs to be assigned to something, even if there is an excess. Okay?
not just in your personal spending line.
Well, I have a line item for
Yeah, but if you have
That.
$400 at the end of the month, it's like, okay, I'll just put it in my personal spending. That probably is not just right.
right. That's what I'm saying.
Choice.
Yeah.
Probably something that's.
Probably not the best one, but I mean it can. But yeah, put it in savings, or increase your savings account or debt or something like that. We'll talk again more about savings and other kinds of things moving forward. The point is, most people are probably not going to have that. If you've never done a budget and you're just now starting, when you get to the end of your line item, you're going to be like, how do we come up with an extra $500 that we don't have? And for some people, that answer is credit cards. And so there's some major work that might need to be done. But you've got to be honest, yes, about what you actually have to, what you're in debt for, or what your actual payment is. And then your other things need to be what you actually spend. But then you'll have to address those if at the end of the month you don't have anything. Or at the end of the month, you haven't put anything in savings yet, and you haven't given yet. Okay, well, now there's some work to be done. So if you're married, schedule a budget meeting.
I like how you said calm.
A calm budget meeting without blame and without hiding. Time to get honest. Time to get real. And if you're not married, you need to sit down and find a time to have a budget meeting with yourself. Take the time to really think through these things. Be honest. Don't fall into the shame. Oh, I've just messed it all. Hey, okay. Let's address it. Sure. Confess your sin. Be faithful and just. God is faithful and just to forgive you of your sins, purify you from all unrighteousness. Now, repentance looks like time to do something different. So, that's what you're doing. Nothing to hide. All right, God, this is honest me trying to do what you are calling me to do, to be faithful steward with what you've given me. And then the last part of the homework is to identify one spending category that needs some immediate attention. A budget is not bondage, it is wisdom. Budget is not a sign that you're failing. It's a tool that will help you to live faithfully. God has not called us, beloved, to financial guessing. He's called us to be faithful stewards. So, let's get on it. Hey, we didn't get really into some discussion questions, but we had some other good discussion along the way, and we finished at 7. So, good job, everybody.